It's Sunday, March 1st, 2020. This is all about your Benjamins and your weekly mixtape and weekend review video. Well, there's probably one subject that we only need to cover this week. It's the spread of coronavirus and the impact it's had on the stock market this week. So let's get to the headlines that may or may not be impacting your financial plan and portfolio. And the sell-off this week prompted me to do something I don't do very often. I did not do it on the first day of the sell-off, but I actually proactively reached out to clients via email. Usually I don't do that. The only other time I've done that was back on election night 2016, and immediately wish I had, because at the end of the day, there was nothing to worry about. Everything worked itself out. The fear is by reaching out when I don't normally reach out, it creates a little bit of concern with clients. But I sent a video just kind of walking through why the market, or why it's being said that the market is reacting to the coronavirus. Obviously, no one really knows. There are a bunch of narratives that can be attached to this story, and that's really what I wanted to discuss on this week's weekend review. There's a couple other little headlines I'll address real quick, but the big thing with the coronavirus is there's going to be a lot of narratives that play out. So the first narrative that we heard was it's spreading over in Asia, into some other countries. Now it's in the US, and just this unknown, how fast it's spreading and how is it spreading. All of these unknowns makes the stock market uncertain and also makes a lot of people nervous. Then the narrative continues to go that if this proceeds and people don't travel, or we continue to have businesses shut down in Asia for a while, that impacts the economy. Supply chains slow down, so products are not being made, impacts US businesses slow down, and now we have talks again of recession. Now don't get too panicky about the talks of a recession, because we had these talks last year with the inverted yield curve and other things that were going on. In the mixtape, there's a great chart just below the articles for the weekend review video from Michael Batnick. It talks about reasons to sell just going back to 2009. You can take this chart out over a much longer time period, but there are a number of reasons during the last 10, 11 years that you could have sold that it would have been the wrong thing to do, which is really going back to why financial advisors, not necessarily stock pickers and investment only professionals, but financial advisors lean on long-term investing in a diversified portfolio, because any number of these reasons could have taken us out of the market and we would have missed the ongoing growth that we've had. Now, this may not be a situation where things bounce back like every other time in the chart, but it might. And since we don't know, the best course of action is to rely on the financial plan that we have, to stick to our investment policy that's tied to that, and not overreact. Emotions get the best of us sometimes, and that's why you have a financial advisor to kind of help you put those emotions aside and not do something that might harm you more than just staying the course. Now, with that being said, financial advisors sometimes try to make light, or maybe don't really appreciate the emotions that our clients are going through. And that's something that we as a profession have to work on. So I say, if you're feeling scared, feel scared. If you're stressed, feel stressed. If you're nervous, feel nervous. That's okay. You're allowed to feel all those things. Money is very emotional, and depending on where you are in your life, and depending on how big of a balance you have, seeing the market go down almost 12% in a week could be very scary. But don't let those emotions spill over and make you do something that's going to hurt you way more than just that uncomfort. So it's okay to feel those emotions, and we shouldn't talk those down, but it's also our job to make sure that we don't allow you to make a decision that's going to negatively impact your plan for the long term. There are a number of people, thousands, I don't know the actual number, but there are a lot of people that are still sitting in cash coming out of 2008, 2009, and look what they've missed. And that's what we want to try to avoid, because that's way more harmful than going down with the market and then coming back up with it because you stayed the course. So little things that you can do through this, if you are in retirement, making sure that you have adequate liquidity if the market were to stay down and doesn't recover very quickly. Meaning, do you have enough short-term bonds, conservative investments, cash to give you your income needs so that you don't have to sell your investments? Giving those investments time to come back. Remember, time horizon. The more time we have invested, the better the odds are that our portfolios come out ahead. So if we can give those investments that are down 12% this week time to recover, that's a good thing. Do you have a backup plan? Are you planning on doing a big expense? Can you push that off? These are some of the similar things I talked about last year in a video about preparing for a recession. We have these plans, we have these things we want to do, but if push comes to shove, if we have to adjust those things and push them out for a little while, that's okay. I don't know if we're going to get to that point, but that's some of the things to be thinking about and talking about with your financial advisor. On the other side, if you're a young professional, do you have enough of an emergency fund? Do you have enough liquidity and cash in case we do experience a recession and you experience job loss or reduction in income? If not, use the time now to really adjust things to build that up. if you're worried about your investments, anything that's invested really should be longer term, that you shouldn't have to really worry about it. Again, time horizon, the more time you have, the better it is for your investments, the better it is for you to stick to the plan and not sell those because they have time to recover. I have the utmost faith that the market's going to recover. I don't know when, but I have faith that it will, and if I didn't, I would be doing something totally different because I'd be steering people into something that goes against what I believe in. So the long and the short, the very first article talks to the market. You were down 12%. The final thing I will tie to that is market corrections happen on average once a year. That's a 10% decline. Bear markets, 20% down, happen every 18 months or so. These are normal occurrences in the market. It's just that when they happen, they're not very much fun. And then when you attach storylines to them and narratives to them, that can just make them even more. So when you talk about a decline in the market that's tied to a virus that's spreading, that there are people dying from, it makes it very scary. And then also the media is not our friend necessarily on this because all they want to do is capture eyeballs. They want to sell advertising, and they know that fear sells. So that's why we see markets in turmoil on CNBC, and that's why you see on Saturday Night Live last night them talking about the economy and the markets. It pulls people in and it brings them in. Now luckily the Saturday Night Live stuff was actually kind of funny, so it makes light of it and just reminds us that there are good things happening in the world. It's not just this one piece. But no doubt the emotions you're feeling are very real. You are totally allowed to feel those. Talk to your financial advisor, revisit your plan, revisit your goals. Now is not the time to revisit your risk tolerance and shake up the portfolio. But once we get through this period and things calm down, maybe it is time to go back and revisit your risk tolerance and do you need to adjust your portfolio because you're not as comfortable with risk as you thought you were. Our comfort with risk is really in the moment. It's what's going on in our life at that time. So it could be where we are in our career, could be what the economy is doing, but there's a lot of other factors that would make us less risk tolerant today beyond just what's going on in the news. Feeling as if we're retired, we don't have as much time, or whatever might be going on. So don't revamp the portfolio today. Make it through this other side and then revisit and talk about how you felt now. How did you feel back in November of 2018? And then see if you need to adjust the portfolio going forward. But doing it now might cause you to lock in losses, and you may not be able to afford to do that. Again, all things you should be talking about with your financial advisor. All right, 2 other quick headlines and that's it. This obviously dominated the week. The other thing piggybacks on it. Federal Reserve has come out and said that they are monitoring and that they've opened up the door for potentially having a rate cut in this month's meeting. The expectation was maybe we get a rate cut later in the year, but if things are continuing to get bad and it looks like the economy is slowing down in the global economy, we might see some efforts from all the central banks to kind of do some monetary easing and letting things bring interest rates down to try to help stimulate the economy and keep it afloat. So we'll see, but they've come out and said that, so that is now on the table. And then the final thing I put on there has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but Amazon is rolling out their first test store with no cashiers. So it'll be interesting to see if this catches wind, and they want to license this technology to other stores. So maybe we go into a store, we just walk right out with all of our stuff and get billed. So again, I wanted to find something that was futuristic, not doing with what's going on today, to show that things are still moving forward. At the end of the day, I think that this will be another hiccup on Michael Batnick's chart. We'll see it, and then in a year or two, we'll revisit this chart again. So there's another reason it's scaring people when it comes to the portfolios. So again, narratives are going to make this seem a lot worse than it is. Much like most things in life, the truth is somewhere in the middle between the two ends of the spectrum. So one end of the spectrum is this is going to kill us all. The other end of the spectrum is this no big deal. Somewhere in the middle. So wash your hands, be mindful of all those good things to try to keep yourself healthy. But then I don't think you need to shut down your life on fears of coronavirus. Maybe this is aged very well, but we'll see. So with that, we'll let you get to your week. Have a great week. Expect probably some continuation of last week and some volatility. So if you're not the type of person to check on your account all the time, I probably would keep on that behavior. And if you do check your account all the time, maybe give it a break for a little while, let things calm down before you dive back in and check on it. And finally, if you are feeling scared, if you're feeling concerned, reach out to your financial advisor. That's what he or she is there to do, to help you through all of this and talk you through and make sure you have your plan where it needs to be if this, in case this lasts a little bit longer. So sorry for a lot of rambling today and a long one, but I had a lot of things I wanted to put out there. So we'll see you next week. Have a great week, and we'll see you next episode.